Hello everyone, welcome. It's another edition of Voices. Voices is a program of the Communication Department of the Atlantic Caribbean Union of Seventh-day Adventists. We're delighted to represent some of the beautiful islands of the Caribbean, namely the Cayman Islands, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and of course the beautiful Bahama Islands. We welcome you today. I'm Eric D. Clark, your host for Voices, and I'm delighted, as usual, to have in studio Mrs. Denise Johnson, who serves our Union territory so faithfully. Mrs. Johnson, welcome, ma'am, to Voices.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Okay. Ms. Johnson, I just want to begin this way and just put it out there. I have asked people to always pray for wives of pastors because most times they're not highlighted, sometimes they're ignored and all the rest of it. And you serve as the wife of the president of the union, and you also serve at Bahamas Academy, and you serve at the union as far as your own individual. How has that been going?
Well, it's been going well. It's sometimes can be a challenge in terms of trying to adjust between being the wife of the president, working at Bahamas Academy, and also working in women's ministries as the director. And I'm so happy that you, like said, that you have asked individuals to pray for us and to keep me especially in mind, because it's not an easy task, as you have rightly said. At intervals, your spouse has to travel.
That's right.
And you have to, you're not able to travel along with him. And apart from that, when you look at the role in which he plays as leader of the organization, there are times when you have to accompany him at certain events, certain functions, and you may have other things to do, and so you're juggling between work at Bahamas Academy full-time. You're also juggling between working as far as women's ministries and that department, and also working as the spouse of an administrator.
Wow. And then on top of that, there are the children.
Yes.
And then you've got grandchildren.
Yes.
So it's really a juggling act, eh?
Yes, and it's easier now because our children are all grown and they are both out of the house, and so therefore they are not present with us. When they were younger, it was a bit of some challenge to us because there were times when I couldn't travel with him. For example, if one of the children were doing something at church, they were involved in a church program, and their father, my husband, was going off to a church or going to another island to preach, the decision had to be made. What do I do? And most naturally, you know, I stayed with the children. And so with them not being at home now, it is easier because I don't have to worry about having to stay behind as a result of the children. And yes, we do have a lovely grandson in the name of Ike.
Okay.
And it's always a pleasure seeing him, even though I'm a Skype grandmother, but it's always a pleasure seeing him.
I want to ask you about that, following up. Allow us to be proud with you. I know most times we don't like to talk about our children and we don't want to put them in the spotlight, but help us to understand for the benefit of the church and all of that. Tell us a little bit about your children and grandchildren.
Well, we have two children, two biological children. Lionel, he's the older of the two, and he is employed by the Ministry of Tourism, and he's working in Los Angeles. He is married and he has one son, Ike.
Okay.
Ike is 4.5.
Okay.
Then we have Danielle, who recently married in December, and she is living in Boston.
Okay. Good. Thank you so much. And when you look at your children, I remember that there would be times when Dr. Johnson would have to do crusades.
Yes.
All right? And you would be there and the children would be there. That would have been taxing sometimes, eh?
It was, and you know, I discovered something pretty early. In fact, I was speaking to someone just recently, and I said to the individual, I got involved in pathfinding as a result of Lionel.
Okay.
the older of the two. We were at Maranatha Church, and he always loved going and doing things. And so the director at the time, Sister Bonamy, she was having an adventurous club or an adventurous camp. And because he wanted to go, I ended up going, and from then I was in Pathfinder until just recently, when I just couldn't juggle the scheduling of Pathfinder on a Sunday. It's like about a little over a year now that I have actually stopped going out to the Pathfinder meetings. But I always enjoyed doing that. And I remember when there were crusade times when Pastor Johnson would be involved in crusade, I discovered that I wanted to be there for him, because I always said, if he is preaching, his family, we have to be there. We must be there. And so what I did, I got involved in the Bible registration. Even if it was a 10th crusade, because if the children had homework to do, the car was parked close to the tent, they could have stayed in the car, do their homework, and then after they were finished, come out and they can still be a part of what was happening in the service. And it also gave me the opportunity to sit at the registration desk and look over my shoulder to see what was happening in the car, because the car was always parked nearby where I was.
Beautiful. And I just want to commend you, because I remember those days, even up until this year, that you guys still sat at the registration table, the desk there. And I think that was a tremendous ministry, and it's a tremendous example for those coming behind just to see that. You had persons that you served with. Can you remember any of them?
Oh, one in particular, and I will never forget her, my sister, Sister Vernita Higgs.
Yes.
Kelly Higgs. And, you know, we started working in the registration together for quite a long time. I don't even remember how it got started, but we ended up working, and so it was almost like a fixture in terms of she would go to the meetings, because I couldn't attend all the meetings in preparation for the crusades, and she would always say, okay, I have you on my team. And so we would always be there. And the joy that I get from sitting at the registration table is to meet the new members, meet the visitors, meet those who are coming, because it's always a blessing to see individuals coming to the crusade. You're getting to meet them, you're getting to know them in terms of their names, sometimes where they live, the telephone number. And so when you see them coming, before they even get to your desk, you remember the name and you're like, okay, I have you ticked off, because, you know, they have become family. And so working in crusades really, that's the joy and the highlight of any Christian experience. And I would encourage anyone who have not done it or have not tried working in a crusade to please do so.
Beautiful. I remembered you mentioned Sister Higgs.
Yes.
Sister Kelly.
Yes.
Vernita Kelly. And then there was the older lady who always talks about evangelism.
Oh, Sister Fernanda. Sister Gertrude Fernanda. Oh yes, it was always a pleasure working with her for many reasons. You know, one of those reasons was the fact that she always had something for you. She always came, walk around. Mind you, she was outspoken, so she would say to you what she thought you weren't doing correctly, or what you should do. And then at the end of it, she would say, okay, here. You know, just give you a little ginger mint or something that she brought from home. But it was always nice to work with Sister Fernanda.
Yeah, and I just want to, Sister Johnson, I just want to pause and we want to salute persons like that. Your Sister Gertrude Fernanda, who has borne the heat of the day.
Yes.
We stand on her shoulders. She was there to train and equip us and to let us know what to do, even as ministerial persons, you know. And people like that, we don't want to ever forget. And so today, I'd just like to salute Sister Gertrude Fernanda. We had Dr. Roach, Sister Roach, who would be there with you. There was Joan Flowers
Yes.
and Ruth Walks from Johnson Park and from the other churches when you look at all of them. And one of the things that I put to the test as far as God was concerned with my children is that whenever we were having a crusade, I was concerned that I did not want my children to miss one night of the meetings. And whenever we put God to the test like that, you discover that whatever exams they were having,
Right.
because they made time for God, they did even better in their exams. Isn't that the way God works?
It is. And then it also, it helped them because they look forward to the crusade. They look forward to the meetings. And what also happened too, many of their friends came out. You know, sometimes you would see them with their friends and you would say, okay, I have no problem, but you can't stay in the car now.
That's right.
You need to get out.
Yes.
Come on the inside. Sit where I can see you.
That's right.
So that I can know that you are there, and if there's anything, you know, you have a watchful eye on the child or children, and then you're able to kind of help guide them through the process.
So previously we had what we call the Shepherdess department.
Yes.
And that seems to almost naturally fall in your lap. What is that all about?
Well, the Shepherdess, now we don't, it's not called the Shepherdess department anymore, or the Shepherdess club. It's now called Spouses of Ministerial, of the ministers, because we have now males who are, or females who are pastors, and so their husbands now become a part of this association.
Okay.
In addition, also, administrative spouses, we are a part of this association, and then in some of our conferences or mission, we have females who may be heading one of the one of the offices in terms of being a treasurer, and so then that spouse now become a part of the ministerial association, or the spouses of ministers, right? And so in this association, it's where we come together as pastors' wives, pastors' spouses, administrative spouses, and we kind of connect with each other.
Okay.
When we look at the ministers, they on a regular basis have meetings
Yes.
that they can share and that they can kind of bounce things off on each other. And so the same thing applies to the spouses of these ministers and administrators. We need to have somewhere and individuals whom we can bounce things off. As a pastor's wife, some things I cannot share with my sister who may not share those same concerns and those needs that I may be going through. For example, you mentioned earlier that my husband travels. Can I say some of the things that I may experience because my husband is traveling, or the fact that he is traveling here and there with someone who may not understand? Some people may get to the point and they're like, you know, okay, yes, your husband traveling, that's his job, right? But then what happens when he's not there?
That's right.
When things are going, when I need assistance even with the children, how do we relate?
That's right.
And so when you sit and you talk and you discuss from your fellow sisters or spouses of those in the ministry, you're able to share, and you're able to get ideas, and you're able to really benefit from the others. You know, I visited one of our sick and shut-in members recently, Sister Hannah. And I said to Pastor Hannah, Pastor Hannah, I can never forget Sister Hannah. When I was a young shepherdess or young ministerial spouse growing up in this church, there was Sister Hannah. When I had my children, especially Lanel, the firstborn, she was one of those ladies who actually kind of guided me through some things that I didn't even know how to do. In fact, even as working in crusades now, was as a result of Sister Hannah saying to me, you can still work in a crusade, and you can be there with your children to support. You can still work in church, and you can be there with your children. Even Sister Roach, I remember her talking about the Sabbath school and all the wonderful programs that she used to put on, right? And so what did I learn? I learned from people like them, Sister McKinney and Sister Macmillan, Althea Macmillan, Sister, it's too many to even call now.
Yes.
Sister Carrie,
Yes.
Sister Olga,
there's two
Cargill,
Macmillans
the
also,
two Macmillans, right? And so when we would have our meetings, sometimes I was the only young person there I can remember. So remember it really vividly, clearly in my mind. And I think of the fact that they were able to say so many things to me, right? They talked about doing things with your children. And so I moved up from being in cradle role straight up. Right now I'm at the junior stage in Sabbath school with the young people.
That's who you teach.
I teach, right? But I started off in cradle role because the children were there, and I just kept on moving up with them. Danielle was in my class before she went off to university, and well, she hasn't come back. But the thing is that I made the switch, I made the changes of moving along with them. And so these kind of things were taught to me from those who have gone through, those who had experienced some of these things. And so we sat, we discussed, I listened, and I took note.
I like what you say, and I wanted to reflect for a moment, Sister Denise, before we take the break, and just look at those names again. I just wanted to put them out there. We had Sister Ruth McKinney.
Ruth McKinney.
All right. Then we have, and this is particularly the retirees and those who have had spouses that have died. We have who's that? Pastor Roach's wife, Sister Olga Roach, right? Then we have Sister Cargill, that's right. We have Sister Shazara Carey, that's right. Then you come across, we mentioned the two Macmillans. Sister Dr. Althea McMillan and Welfare McMillan. We appreciate all of these persons.
We also had Sister Moore.
That's right.
Sister Moore.
That's right. And she lived for a long time. And what a ministry.
Then
Sister
we
Moore.
had Sister
Hannah.
Sister Hannah. And also Sister
Brown. We had Sister Brown.
Sister Brown.
Sister Olga Brown.
And Sister Scavella.
Sister Scavella, that's right. Sister Alwine Scavella.
And also
Sister Scavella. Florence. Sister Florence Scavella as well.
You can't forget her because the pastries.
That's right.
The pastries,
So we had two Scavellas in there, and we have, all right? And we stand on their shoulders today, isn't that so?
And it was such a blessing back then to just have sat at their feet and to have learned so much from them.
We want to thank God for these persons. We have to take a break right now, but we'll be right back. You are watching Voices, and we have Sister Denise Johnson in studio.
I want to invite you to the 8th World Congress for Religious Freedom. What an exciting time we're going to have in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, August 22 to 24. This year, 2017, religious freedom is something which Seventh-day Adventists are so excited about because it has something to do with our ability to then share the precious gospel and the soon coming of Jesus Christ. But for all people, religious freedom should take on new significance as we see challenges all over the world. Join statespersons, individuals from around the world, attorneys, religious liberty experts, and many others at the 8th World Congress for Religious Freedom. I'll see you there.
Welcome back. This is Voices, and I am Eric D. Clark, and what a delight and a pleasure it is to have Mrs. Denise Johnson in studio with me. In our first portion, we were talking about a number of things, including Shepherdess ministry. And Mrs. Johnson, this half, we want to talk about women's ministries, because you wear that hat as well, isn't that so?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what is women's ministries?
Well, women's ministries is a department within the church that is there to help women as they identify their roles, who they are, and to help them to carry out this role or the role that God has placed upon them within the homes, churches, and also in the communities.
Okay. When you think about women's ministries, though, is it a feminist kind of a movement? Is it one of these where you're trying to elevate the women above the men or something like that?
Oh, no, it's not, right? You know, I've heard this so many times in terms of people saying that women's ministries is just a place where men are being bashed and ladies are just trying to uplift themselves. They want to take over. And so as a result, you find that there are some men, whenever there's a women's program, they kind of find themselves into another congregation or find themselves outside. But that is not women's ministries. Women's ministries is not there to bash men. It's not there to have any feminist appeal to it. We are a department within the church. There's children's ministries, men's ministries, and singles ministries, other ministries. You know, the church is made up of such that there are so many arms in the church, and the purpose of women's ministries is to help our females in the church to be better. Also to help address some of the needs and concerns that they have. And you can appreciate Pastor Clark as a pastor. If there are issues that a female member has in your congregation, there are some things that you may not be able to do.
That's right.
Right? You may not be able to reach that individual, that female. But if you have a women's ministries department, you have a women's ministries team, then you can say, okay, you can ask them for their help, and they will be able to help you.
That's right.
Also, when we look at women's ministry, sometimes we think of it's separate and apart from your deaconesses or the community arm of the church. It's not. All females within the church comes under the umbrella of women's ministries. And so when we say that, what are we saying? We're saying that we're asking now that all of our leaders, as it relates to the community, the deaconesses,
community services,
the community services, and all the other female group within the church, let's come together and let's work as one. Because there, on all of this is that, okay, we all working together. You may be in charge of the visitation team. You may be in charge of greeting the people as they come through the door, as like the deaconesses do. But we are all working together. And so we're not saying that, okay, I want to take over everything because, okay, I'm women's ministries, right? Or because I am community services leader, so I need to be in charge of everything. We have to come to the point where we work together. And in order to do this, it's so important, as from the church's standpoint, that when we are electing officers now to be in charge of these departments, we look at personalities and we look at individuals in terms of who will work based on the mandate that we have been given, right? And therefore, training is important.
It is.
It's important that we train so that people can know what is their role, what it is they have to do, so that we can all go towards one goal, and that is the advancement of the gospel.
Okay, and I know that you've been doing some of these training throughout the Union territory. Do you find that it's exclusive?
Oh, no. No. I am so happy you said that. I'm recently from the Cayman Islands. And in the Cayman Islands, we did some training on emotional wellness. This is one of the training programs that we have from Women's Ministries Department, because during this period, we're trying to see how we can do a whole lot of training of our people, because we have to look strategically at how we can help each other. And not only just helping us, but also be able to help us as we go there to help others. And in the Cayman Islands, the training that I just completed recently, we had quite a number of men in the audience.
Good.
We trained in Cayman Islands, Georgetown, then we also went to the Cayman Brac.
Okay.
And we also had men, and the men participated and asked questions and went through the training just like the ladies. And they were very, very excited about the program, because the program is just not, when we look at emotional wellness. It's just not for females.
Beautiful.
We also had children there too.
Ah, excellent. And this program is a program of the World Church.
Yes, it is.
Is there it deals with several aspects, isn't that so?
Yes.
Okay, what would they be?
Well, we look at depression. We look at also abuse. We look at in terms of exercise. So it is a complete program because wellness is not just physically. We also look at the spiritual aspect of it, and the spiritual aspect involves forgiveness.
Okay.
We find that that's an issue that so many of us have. You know, I'm going along, I'm at church, I'm attending church, but then guess what? You sitting next to me and I haven't forgiven you for something that you may not even know that you have done.
Wow.
Right? And so it's the physical, the social, the mental, and the spiritual, all aspect, total, in terms of wellness.
Okay.
And this is why it's not just for females.
Okay.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Yes.
And when you do have these retreats, are you by yourself in terms of, are there other speakers?
Oh, for the retreats we have once per year. And what we have started doing since the union started is to move around through the union. We are kind of unique in that we are not one land mass.
That's right.
And I wish we were, because it would be easier to go to your brothers and your sisters where they are.
Right.
Just take a drive.
Okay.
But we have to fly, and it's very costly. And so we have been moving around so that it can strengthen the bonds of the union in terms of the sisters and brothers meeting each other, right? And it has really been an encouragement for many of us. And what has happened, it has caused people to get to know their sisters in other parts of the union. And we've had quite a number of these retreats. We've had individuals from the General Conference, we've had the Associate Director, and we've also had the Director from the General Conference. And it's always a pleasure when we have others come in to us. This year, for our retreat in October 21st to 22nd, we will be having Sister Linda Anderson, and she is from the Oakwood University. I've heard a lot of positive things about her. She's one who loves people. She's one who has committed her life to Christ and is doing her part as she is dean to the girls on the Oakwood campus. You know, in January when we had the Aeolians here, I hosted 3 of the young ladies, and I just kind of threw out the name to them, right? And one of them, she just started talking, you know, I'm saying, okay, you know.
Right.
So I was kind of pleased to hear her express herself as it relates to our speaker who will be coming here in October.
Do you have those dates nailed down as yet?
Yes, October 20th to 22nd at the Malaya Resort Hotel.
And at that time, you're expecting persons to come from all across the Union Territory?
Yes, we're expecting individuals to come from the Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, North Bahamas, and then South Bahamas here will be hosting the event.
Beautiful. Sister Denise, it's good to have you in studio, and it's been a real delight. Can you give a final wrap-up word to those persons, whether it's women's ministries or the spouses of ministers, and then the church in general?
I will leave with you my favorite text found in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path.
Thank you so much. I love the text, and I appreciate you being here on behalf of the Union family and on behalf of our union. We want you to know that we cover you in prayer. We cover Dr. Johnson and your family, and we trust that God will continue to guide you all as you lead in this part of God's vineyard. This has been Voices. I'm Eric D. Clark. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, may God continue to hold you and us in the hollow of his hand.